probably won't post this video, but if you're on here, send me some questions and we'll talk about it. Originally, I was going to focus on talking a little bit about the Olympics, and while people came on, one of the unique things about what I have seen in the Olympics this year is that even though I train a lot of guys in the spec ops world, preparing for spec ops jobs, these guys are insanely world class and above and beyond anything that, you know, my guys are coming close to. For instance, I try to get guys to swim a 500-yard swim in under 8 minutes. That is like, you won't even be in the pool if you're not swimming 4 minutes, for that distance. It's insane. And depends on the stroke too. But typically an Olympic swimmer will swim 800 yards in the amount of time that we swim 500 yards. So let that sink in a little bit. And then another one that I like to see is the gold standard in the Marine Corps is a 18-minute 3 mile. So if you can do an 18-minute and 3 mile, you have maxed the run. And that's a big challenge for Marines to be able to do. That's a 6-minute mile for 3 miles is legit. But if you're in the Olympics, you are, I think the record was like 12:50 or something like that. Something ridiculous for 3 miles. So maybe even less than that. But damn, I mean, the guy who finishes at that is waiting around 5 minutes before the first 18-minute guy comes around. And that just blows my mind. And then I was watching women track last night that were running a 1/4 mile in 52 seconds, which is off the charts fast. And then I noticed they're also running hurdles at that speed, which just blew my mind. I don't think I've ever run a 60-second, 1/4 mile ever, which is a 4-minute mile. But if you can do one of them, that's pretty good. But damn. And even the 800s, the half-mile runs, insane, men and women. So, I've just been so impressed by what the human body can do, when you focus on that. But here's the thing. The difference between a tactical athlete and an Olympian is all that Olympian has to do is focus on one thing, typically. And that's it. They don't have to lift necessarily to be strong if they're in that endurance guy. They don't have to do agility work. They don't have to do obstacle courses. They don't have to swim if they're in the track, and they don't have to run if they're in the pool. So many things that the tactical athlete has to consider. Obviously, you're not going to be great at anything, but you need to be good at everything. So think about that. I would say the closest, and I look forward to seeing the decathlon event, when they do 10 different events. That's about as close to a tactical athlete as you will get when you're an athlete in sporting activities. So in my opinion. So anyway, it's been fun. It's been fun seeing human achievement in that method. But we can talk some questions, and I see a few questions popping up already. So let me go to the top. Once I got my sound, people could start asking questions here. All right, Gabe is shipping out in 8 weeks, currently on a plan to work up to about 40 miles per week. Is that good mileage to be hitting prior to shipping? Well, here's the thing. If you're not anywhere near 40 miles a week, don't spend 8 weeks trying to crush yourself and getting hurt trying to build up to 40 miles a week. 40 miles a week is a good standard to get up to, but if you're at 20, there's no reason to try to get up to 40 in 8 weeks. I mean, you can, but you're going to wind up, pushing some limitations there potentially. I would suggest, if you're going to add mileage, add a few more miles, add a few more runs, but focus on your pace. Yeah, you can do a long, slow distance run if you want one day, but really too many of those will just get you good at running slowly. And you need to be able to pass 4-mile timed runs. Well, first of all, you need to pass your 1.5-mile timed run at prep, or you won't ever go to buds. So make sure you can run a short 1.5 miles very fast in the 6 sub-7 minute range. So focus on that. You won't ever get to the training if you can't pass that. And then you need to be able to run your 4-mile timed runs at a 7-minute pace. You don't have to go much faster than that, but that 7-minute pace comfortably at a 28, if you can run 27, 28 minutes, 4 miles, that's going to serve you so much better than running a 10-mile at a 9-minute pace. Yes. Can you do that? Sure. But I would really focus on your 4-mile timed runs being an easy day, 28 minutes. Because you're going to take that every week. If you fail one of those, you're going to be boarded. You fail 2 of those, potentially going to be kicked out. And you got to make it up too. So it's not a fun time. Let's see. Your video on how to get rock hard abs makes it look easy. What work? I have no idea what you're talking about. So, form quick question. How deep are you supposed to go on leg press? You know what? You can go as deep as you want. I mean, you can go deep as a full squat. You can make at 90-degree angle if you want with the knees. I would suggest, go 90 degrees at least. But if you're comfortable and you're mobile enough to go a little deeper, go a little deeper. That's fine. Yeah, 5K world records, a 12:51. Yeah, that's insane, man. That is insane. So, yeah, so around 13 minutes. And, 5 minutes later, 18-minute Marine is coming in, and he maxes the Marine Corps test. That's impressive. All right, so Gabe answers back. Right now at 28, yeah, not bad. 40 in 8 weeks is reasonable. And yes, keep your mileage in between that magic 6:30, 7:15 pace. I wouldn't go much slower than that. Otherwise, you're just going to get good at running slow. That's my opinion. There's a couple other techniques out there that have you running longer, slower distance days. And those are fine too, especially if you need to lose a little bit of weight. But I just know timed runs matter. Long, slow distance runs, yes, they can build a cardio base if you're lacking a cardio base. But, if you got a pretty decent cardio base, I'd focus on your pace. Quick question. What do you recommend for the rest sets in between workouts throughout the day? Like rest between run, ruck, swim, triathlon. That's a good question. I try to get as much as I can in one session. So I don't run triathlons, but we run, swim, ruck all the time. And in fact, Friday we have a run, a ruck, and a swim. And we try to get it done in about 2 hours. Sometimes we'll pick up the mileage. We'll do a 4-mile run, 4-mile ruck, 1-mile swim. We try to get it in under 3 hours. So it's no real rest. You just move from one event to the other and try to get it done. However, if you don't have 3-hour block to train, which is common, not everybody does, do an hour in the morning, try to get whatever, if the pool is available, then take it, get that over with. I personally like to run or ruck in the morning because it's just so hot in the afternoon, and then I swim at lunch. So that's what I do. I'm not sure what you were exactly asking, if you were talking about doing it all in one session or not. But yes, we transition with basically hydrating, short stretch, and then get after it. If you're thinking it like a triathlon, you don't want to rest too much. Maybe 4 or 5 minutes of taking some transition time, getting in. Okay, so should I train with the bro split to prepare for selection, or would you train differently? Yes, I have not done bro splits in 30 years. I don't recommend them unless you are injured. I will say this. My first weightlifting cycle after injury, when I was 30, was a bodybuilding split, where it was a lot of isolation exercises, leg days, arm days, chest days, and that helped a lot. But it was recovering from injury. I would not use that method as training for selection. I personally like the upper body, lower body split routine, maybe a full body day thrown in there, like a Murph day. But yes, you should do, if you want to train every day, I would suggest upper body one day, followed by a lot of cardio, running and swimming. Lower body the next day, followed by a lot of cardio and swimming, or mixing it all in. And, if you're going army, I would replace swimming with rucking on leg days. No need to ruck every day, but you definitely want a PT, run, swim, or ruck, when you're preparing. But you got to also look at your weaknesses and strengths. Are you a lifter? Are you coming from a power background? If so, calisthenics and cardio is a great option for you. However, if you're coming from an endurance background, you are needing to get into the gym, drop your mileage, and put on some mass, put on some strength, and then address the overall conditioning of a tactical athlete in your next selection appropriately by preparing specifically for many of those events. That's how I do it. That's how I train it as well when people train with me here. So there's an article I'll put into the description below. Many of you guys, I'll put a running plan article in there. I'll put like some of these questions that you've answered. I'll put in a little periodization assessment tool article in there as well for you, and you can check that out. Go to abdominal core work exercises. Well, first of all, any lift is a core exercises, especially if you're lifting up something from the ground over your head, or if you're doing farmer walks. I personally like TRXs. I like TRX atomic push-ups. I like TRX planks, TRX rollouts. But you got to look at the core as a system, not as just a bunch of ab exercises. I do like crunches. I do those. I do swimmers, flutter kicks, plank poses. I think of a wide variety of core activity is wise, especially if you're going to be doing grinder PT workouts in your future, because you will do a lot of those. But the core is a system. So you can't just look at it as abs. You got to look at it as lower back, upper back, obliques, front side, core, psoas, hips, all of that will come into play when you talk about the core. So try that out. See how it works for you. But yeah, I don't necessarily do a lot of ab reps, but I like to warm up my body with some crunches, some plank poses, some mountain climbers, things like that, and sometimes I like to cool down with what I call the PT reset, where I'm working upper back and lower back and obliques all at the same time as well. What is the best program for absolute beginner, 80 pounds overweight? I would suggest non-impact cardio activity, walking if you're capable. If your feet don't hurt and your knees don't hurt, your back doesn't hurt. Because imagine being, not overweight and putting on an 80-pound backpack every day. That's what you're doing to yourself. So I would avoid impact cardio. So biking, elliptical, rowing, swimming, all of those are probably going to be safer for you and not necessarily hurt you. Walking is okay, but I would avoid running right now. Just your knees will thank you for it. And then from there, a mix of basic calisthenics. You might want to get some dumbbells. Some TRXs are really good because you can make exercises easier with the TRX. You can also make them harder with the TRX. But if I have programs, I have a 90-day beginner program. I'll put a link to beginner fitness. In fact, there's a free 45-day beginner program. I would suggest starting there. Depending on your age, I would definitely mix in some mobility work as well, and move on from there. Let's see. I found a deep pool to float in. Once COVID measures are lifted, the pool have agreed that I can do treading water. Spinal injury, former triathlete that's banned from impact. Yeah, man, get in the water. 100%. Get in the water, tread water, dynamic stretches in the water, run in the water. Put one of those little things around your waist and just aqua jog. Love that stuff. I think you'll get a great benefit out of it, and it is going to feel awesome. Also, I'd mix in some non-impact cardio activity if you can, like bike or elliptical, if that's okay on you. And then follow it with some very basic stretching, not too twisty, for your back, but just enough to, keep your mobility where it's supposed to be in your back and hips. And walking out of that facility with no pain would be very nice. I tend to find that very helpful, doing that. So yeah, Richard, good job. Let's see. Will going up to 40 miles per week affect my strength much? It could, but as long as you are eating and still lifting and doing calisthenics, it will not. There are plenty of guys who can lift and run, but the common denominator between being good at lifting and running is that they are doing both. You can't neglect one and expect to maintain it. So, I know that's a pretty common sense comment, but the people who complain about losing their gains have quit lifting and quit eating. So just a little bit of cardio or adding some cardio to your week is not going to crush your gains. You just have to eat more. So you take up that caloric deficit from occurring. So Brooke says, resting between workouts as part of a large 2 to 3 hour block. Yeah, no, I don't really, when I say do the Spec Ops triathlon, a 4-mile run, 4-mile ruck, 1 mile swim, you're right. I did not specifically address rest periods because I think rest periods are personal. And when you're writing a generic program, it's hard to get personalized for each individual. In fact, it's impossible. So you need to personalize it. You know, what is your rest period that you need? I personally, like I said, I transition from one to the other. I've done it as quickly as a minute, and I've done it as long as 10 or 15 minutes. Just depends on how I'm feeling and who I'm with, and if we get into a conversation and, you know, lose track of time. So, you know, it's not necessarily a race. What I'm looking for in those Spec Ops triathlons are 3 event times. I'm not necessarily looking for a total time. So if you can do a 4-mile run in 28 minutes, you can do a 4-mile ruck in 45 minutes, and you can do a 1-mile swim in 35 minutes, that's great. I don't need to know if there's a 10-minute break in between all of them. You know, it can be an hour-long break in between all of them. But, you know, that's really the gist of those Spec Ops tries. So, but yeah, I like to get them over with and go home, and I'm done. So minimal rest is my preference. How long does a typical mobility session last for you? Does it entail foam rolling, lax ball, or just static stretching? You know what? Funny you should mention that. I am thinking about going live tomorrow with my mobility day. Thursdays are my mobility days, and I'm probably just going to do a live stream of me doing the whole hour mobility day. And it looks like this. It's 5 minutes of bike or elliptical. I'll just move the camera tripod around while we do this, and I'll try to keep you company while we're doing things. And then it's a series of stretching. It's a series of foam rolling. It's a series of lacrosse ball massage. And we'll bring out probably my car buffer and the Theragun as well, just to get some spots that the foam roller doesn't get. But, you know, I typically try to personalize for me what works for me in those mobility days. And I tend to do my 5-minute cardio to warm up, and then I'll work my feet and maybe my Achilles area, right? Lower calf muscle for the first 5 minutes, just massaging, you know, stepping on some lacrosse balls and things like that. Then put my shoes back on, and we go back to the to the cardio section, and I do another 5 minutes of cardio, and I come back and I work the calves and shins a little bit, a little foam rolling, a little stretching, and maybe if I have time, I'll get into some hamstring work, and then go back on the bike or elliptical, come back, work thighs and hips, and I just work my way up the body from feet all the way up to probably my shoulders and neck. And it'll be fun. I think that might be a pretty fun event. So that's how I do it. So it's not just static stretching. I try to get as much variety in there as possible because I need it. And afterwards, I'll go for a swim. I'll do some treading, and I'll do some dynamic stretches in chest deep water. Do some aqua jogging. I do this one thing called hypoxic aqua jogging, where I focus on kind of floating, but with a big breath of air, and then just constant jogging. And about every 10 strides, I come up for a breath. And that gets your heart rate up. You're doing some non-impact cardio, and it feels pretty good. So let's see what's next. I'm a power athlete, and I need to lose weight. Strength is not a weakness, I would imagine. I'm going to stay away from the bro split. I need to find a program to prepare for selection. Any recommendations? What kind of selection? Is it Navy based, or are you looking for Army, Marine Corps? You know, there's many selections out there, and you need to get specific to what your selection is going to require of you. Is it going to require a lot of swimming? Is it going to require a lot of treading? It's going to require rucking more, or is it going to combo both? So need to check that out. But I would probably go, you know, where you are right now is focus on your calisthenics and cardio base. You know, coming from a power athlete, that's what I was. And I basically spent a good year just doing a combination of non-impact cardio activity followed by some running progression and calisthenics. I just stayed out of the weight room for probably a good 6 months before I even touched another weight. You can add some weights in there. I'm not opposed to weightlifting, obviously, but I needed to increase my cardiovascular endurance and muscle stamina, and that is the way I did it. You know, so give yourself some time. It takes some time coming from a power athlete who's got a lot of mass on them to becoming a more spec ops level tactical athlete. So be patient. Cardio, calisthenics and cardio is where I would start. Let's see. Another question here. Coming back into fitness post hernia surgery. Yeah, those suck. Haven't had one yet, but I have seen many people who have. Getting back into running this week and lifting in a couple more weeks. Any recommendations for building? You know what? To be honest with you, Sid, I would refer to your physical therapist before doing anything, because I've seen people start off too soon, you know, and wind up hurting themselves, whether it was with a basic pull-up or maybe even a leg tuck type of exercise, or just wasn't ready to do that exercise yet. And so make sure you've getting released from your physical therapy, get some suggestions from them as well, because they're probably going to start you off progressively. I personally would kind of treat yourself like a beginner, maybe not so much with running, because that's not a lot of core requirement out of that, but you know, anything lifting, calisthenics, I would probably do more isolation core work like plank poses first before moving on to you know, sit-ups or flutter kicks or things like that. And it's definitely lifting, because lifting is going to be probably the biggest challenge for you. But yeah, just be smart with it. I would probably build a foundation of calisthenics and cardio first, and then slowly start to add in more core activity to build that up, and then lift. So farmer walks would be a good one, I think. Plank pose, bear crawls, you know, all of those are kind of like a dynamic version of the plank. So give that a shot. Can you give me some tips on sinking legs while freestyle swimming? You know, I would first watch some videos of freestyle swimmers and notice what they're doing with their feet. If you have a really good pull, and when I mean pull, I mean the term freestyle catch, make sure you search that, freestyle catch. You can not even move your legs, and just as long as your arms are pulling water properly, you can just do a kick every now and then, and your feet will stay up. They're just going to drag right behind your upper body. But if you're not pulling water fast enough and hard enough with your arms efficiently, you're probably going to start swimming like that, and now your feet are down here. So my advice is throw a few flutter kicks in there. Make sure your toes are pointed, kind of like a ballerina point. So when you're kicking with the, you know, top part of your foot, you know, into the water, versus having your ankles bent at 90 degrees. You should be like closer to this, you know, with your ankle and foot. So work on ankle mobility, and make sure you can actually push down with your foot so your feet go up. That's the big key. And don't overkick, because that would tire you out, but work on your pull, work on your ankle mobility. Those are my tips for sinking legs. Let's see. I'm working on a CSS right now, but I'm having some issues that I can't identify personally. I don't know anybody who can critique me. Is there a way? Yeah, just send a video. I do that all the time. In fact, funny you should mention that, is I just made a TikTok Don't worry, you're not going to see me dancing to stupid music. Solely devoted to me coaching swimming. And this is spec ops level swimming. So it's CSS, it's underwater swims, it's treading, it's drown proofing, things like that is the only videos I'm going to put up there. Same as my Instagram address, StuSmith50, StuSmith50 on TikTok. And you can see, I just started it yesterday. I think I got 9 videos up there. But it's all of me voiceovering people swimming and telling them what they're doing wrong. Very similar to the way I do on Instagram, but you don't have to go hunt for them, you know, because I do that on Instagram as well. And, you know, YouTube has some older videos of me doing it as well. But yeah, send a video to me. I will critique it, tell you what you're doing right or wrong, and I can have that answered for you real easy. Let's see. Any merit to the claim that running with a mask will improve VO2 max? No. Yeah, that doesn't work. I mean, it makes breathing harder. But I haven't seen any science on whether or not that actually improves your VO2 max. Might help you get used to like a higher carbon dioxide in your body, but I can't really see a whole lot. Do you recommend anyone training elderly populations? I know this is not your area, but do you know the Stu Smith of training for the elderly? Good question. You know what? I've actually have back in the day when I did personal training, I had at one workout 3 generations in the same room. So actually 4, because the baby was running around. So there was a baby running around, the mom, and her mom. So the oldest was 80. And, you know, trickled on down all the way down into their 20s. But man, I tell you what, that was a lot of fun. And the 80-year-old impressed me so much. But yeah, I mean, I have some experience with it. I don't know anyone who just specializes in the elderly population. Maybe if you send me an email and I can kind of give you some of the ideas that I've experienced with older populations, whether it's older lifters who want to stay strong, or it's older people who are sedentary that need to start moving again, or even an 80-year-old woman who can, and this was awesome because got her able to do a toe touch, and she walked it out into a up dog position, then went on all fours, laid on her belly, did a push-up, got to all fours, did an up dog, walked her way back up to a toe touch. And that's how we were practicing just the basics of you're on the floor, how are you going to get up? And that was obviously a lot harder than it had to be because she could get up anyway. I was just working on some other muscle groups for her. But yeah, she's still getting after it. And that was probably 10 years ago. So yeah, it's good to see older folks work out. In fact, tomorrow I got a podcast on with a guy who's at least 10 years older than I am. Naval Academy guy, became a firefighter for 30 years, and he's still getting after it. So that gives me hope for, you know, when I get into my 60s. I still got another 9 years before that happens. But yeah, it's always good to see some folks working out, and training elderly I found to be very rewarding because you really do make their life better, you know, towards the final decade or decades of their life. I mean, I found that just sitting down and standing up without use of their arms was a huge challenge. That was kind of like the baby steps we would start off with. So great question. But the short answer is that I don't know who trains the elderly. I'm sure we could find something though, but send me an email. We'll shoot shoot back some ideas. Happy to chat with you on that one. My body sinks when I'm doing the CSS, not the 6 inches under like you imagine. How can I stay closer to the top? You know what? Take a look at your shoulder mobility, because a lot of times what people screw up on is their glide. And when you're gliding and you can't do this, right, and stay straight, I don't know if you can see that, but if you can stay straight, but if you have to like bend your arms down, you can't touch your biceps to your ears. This is just like a dive plane making you go deeper every time you kick. So work on your shoulder mobility and your streamline position, because you're probably screwing it up to a point where every time you kick, your arms are pointed this way and you go down. You got to be almost pointed up. I mean, I even like lift my elbow like from the wrist whenever I'm swimming this way, right, with my hands this way. I even do this just to make sure I'm moving in the up direction. So think of it like a dive plane on a submarine. All right. So, this is the last question. I'm sorry I got to go. It's 10 o'clock. I actually have a conference I have to listen to online. Kind of sucks, but anyway, got to go at 10. Last question. What type of ruck progression should I be doing prep for SFAS? You know what? I have an article called Rucking Progression, Stu Smith. Check it out. It'll answer your question. Also has some rules of rucking and foot care and all that too. That's all types of stuff that you need to deal with. Let's see. So here's the deal. If I missed your question, please, send it to me. Post it in the comment section, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, and I will get to it. Or email me, stu@stusmith.com, and I will answer it. If you have swim videos, send them to me. Just 50 yards. Don't do it by just leaving the camera at the end of the pool, because I can't see it. You need to have somebody walking the whole side of the pool with you so I can actually see you. And don't send it to me. If you can't see yourself swimming, don't send it to me, because I can't see you swimming either. So hey, man, thanks for sticking around. If you guys want, Compete 20 code, save 20% at StuSmithFitness.com. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning. Hopefully I can scrub those out, and we'll go from there. All right. So that's it. Got to go. Happy hump day. Catch you next week.